All right, sir. I'm going to start with Tony Bennett, and I want from an X and O standpoint. What made Bennett's run at Virginia great?
There's kind of a lot to get to with him, but the abridged version, I think it starts with the defense. Everyone knows the term pack line, right? But
Yeah.
what does that mean, the pack line defense? And, over the years we saw Bennett, tweak or maybe alter things here or there, but the base of that defense was Virginia hard hedging pick and roll ball screens, putting two defenders on the ball and forcing, the ball handler to pass or give it up. And then recovering, behind the play. And then it was automatic double teams in the post, right? And usually doing that, if the opponent was going to post up the 4, then the double team was going to come from Virginia's 5. If the post up went through the offensive center, then the double team was going to come from Virginia's 4-man. So post-to-post doubles. Trying to force the ball out of the hands of a strong post player in college. And both of those things, Virginia sort of like dialed down to an extent over the last few years. Fewer automatic post doubles, guarding ball screens differently, including last season. They really started to hard hedge like less frequently. But those were like the principles of it. And then offensively, I actually think Bennett, I know people like to critique the pace and stuff like that. In the last few years, there's been some disappointing offenses. Landing, outside the top 200 in efficiency is like kind of crazy given where those teams were the first decade, for Bennett. But the blocker mover offense, this sort of like off-ball continuity offense that was just like a series of gears of down screens and flare screens. They ran a lot of inside triangle action. And then, of course, continuity ball screen during their 2019 title run. But basically, what I would say is an offense that put a premium on off-ball movement and, like, good screening actions and three-point shooting and low turnover rate. Like, that was how those teams, while also having good players, like, ballooned to having, being pretty efficient offenses despite not getting to the free throw line all that often the first decade of Bennett's tenure there.
24/7 Sports Buzzbeat podcast. Brian Geisinger joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. When you don't have great shooting, and they haven't had great shooting the last couple of years, it stands to reason that the efficiency of your offense is going to go down. They were still a team that nobody wanted to play because nothing came easy for you on the offensive end. There's no question he was a winner. Look, we can credit the slower pace for making it more possible for a higher seeded team, 3 times upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament, including once as the number 1 seed when they lost to UMBC, 2 other times as a 4 seed, losing to a 13 seed. And when you play at a slower pace and there are fewer possessions, you invite a greater chance of an upset. That's just math. Right? The fewer possessions that there are in a game, the more likely there is an upset to whatever degree. The more possessions, the more the better talented team has a better opportunity to win. But I don't know. I personally don't think it eats at his legacy because his legacy was winning.
Yeah, they were a wins machine, for 15 years basically. Even when they were like starved for talent offensively, they were still, routinely a top 4 seed in the ACC. And look, like, I think Bennett, everyone knows about the defense and the blocker mover offense and that he's a good guy or whatever too, but he could really recruit and he could really develop players too. And, there was a period of time where sort of like before the opening of the portal and NIL, where it felt like Virginia and Villanova, there's probably 1 or 2, maybe something like Baylor had sort of like hit on this pathway of being, consistently putting guys in the NBA despite maybe not getting, one and done guys,
right?
Which is like constantly getting a top 50 recruit and then having them for 2 to 4 years and developing them and getting them better, and then turning those guys into NBA role players. Malcolm Brogdon, Joe Harris, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome. Like there's plenty of guys today. Mamadi Diakite he's bounced around in the NBA too. So like there were guys that proved this positive too. So Bennett was a great coach, very good at developing players. And yeah, I mean, if people want to hold the recent NCAA tournament stuff against him or whatever, like, I don't know, that's fine. It probably supports whatever their agenda was,
right,
about Bennett for 15 years or whatever. The dude is an awesome coach, and I really thoroughly enjoyed watching and studying his teams play, and I'll miss him a lot in college basketball. And the sport was better having him involved.
Yeah, I remember watching him when he was coaching at Washington State. And he had a guy named Klay Thompson on his team. Also, Mark Hendrickson was a great player who played out at Washington State under Tony Bennett. I watched them lose to Carolina I think it was Carolina. I was out in Memphis at a regional where Carolina was there. I think they lost to Carolina. They lost to UNC in the Sweet 16. But he was a dynamite basketball coach. And yeah, the ACC is not as good without some of these great coaches, and we have lost a bunch over the last several years. All right. One more thing before we get to your all-ACC team, and I gave you an assignment, and I know you always did your homework, Brian Geisinger, so we'll get to that in a second. I know the Hornets waived 3 players, one of which was Harry Giles, and I had spoken with, I guess it was Kanata Edwards last week about Giles and the potential for could he make the team, blah, blah. If not, maybe he would go to Greensboro. What is your sense about Giles, his chance to stick in the G League, based on this latest development?
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I thought, the Hornets were kind of they had, in theory, they had one of their 15 full-time roster spots available. It looks like maybe they gave it to DeQuan Jeffries. There was maybe a competition among some of the sort of like training camp guys that they had, including Giles. Or I thought there was also a chance they might just keep that spot open going into the season,
right,
as like a trade venue for them. But look, I thought Harry Giles played pretty well in preseason, to be totally honest with you. And it was just was awesome to see him back out on the court. I mean, it's truly unfortunate to see how much time he's missed, and just sort of like what could have been component of his career is pretty disheartening when you think about it. But he's still playing, he still clearly loves the game, and he's still obviously so skilled. And it's obviously he's got he has the length, and he's still a decent athlete, at least vertically. But the passing, his floor, his vision, his court mapping is all pretty good. I don't know. Maybe look, the NBA might not be the thing for Giles. Jabari Parker went to play great for Barcelona last season, right? Another former Duke guy. Maybe overseas is the look for Giles. But I was sort of hoping he'd hang on to a spot. But I guess the Hornets have enough sort of front court depth, and they wanted another guard wing on the roster, or who knows, maybe they just didn't see quite enough from Giles. But I thought he played pretty well in preseason. Yeah,
they don't play as many games in the international leagues as well, so maybe that would work better for him. All right, Brian Geisinger, let's start. I had asked you to come up with a first and second team all-ACC. I got a couple of minutes here, so let's have at it. Give me your first team all-league.
Yeah, this one's tough because there's 100 teams in the league now. This used to be
yes.
This gets more complicated every few years because there's more guys to consider. For first team, though, I think there should kind of be 3 locks for the league, which is R.J. Davis from UNC, Hunter Salas from Wake Forest, and Cooper Flagg from Duke. Those would be 1, 2, 3 for me in some order.
Right.
And then this is where I think you can start to kind of get a little bit more creative. I had Jameer Watkins from Florida State. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the league. A powerful wing that can guard a bunch of positions, switch around, can drive, can pass a little bit, can score. I've got him in Bae Diongo from Georgia Tech, who's only a sophomore, but is, I think, going to turn 22 this season. So experienced sophomore,
Yes.
but a really good front court passer, athletic, can finish, can pass. I think he's going to be a nice featured player for David Stoudemire in Georgia Tech this season. And with the second team, it got really hard. I'm not going to lie with you. I went Ian Shefflin from Clemson, who was sneaky awesome last season. It got buried a little bit because PJ Hall was so good, but
Right.
Big guy that can facilitate from the high post, can shoot, can really rebound. He's just going to put up big time numbers. Marcus Burton from Notre Dame, who the returning ACC freshman of the year.
Yep.
That should have been Jared McCain last season, in my opinion. I also have Jalen Lowe from Pittsburgh. Who's
Yes.
I don't think that landed on any of the. Actually, I think his teammate Ishmael Leggett got more. Was named to one of the rosters, but Jalen Lowe, I think, is one of the fastest guys with the ball in the ACC. Big time advantage creator. If he shoots it a little bit better, I think he has the chance to be pretty awesome. And then after that, man, it was really, really tough. But I went with Nigel Pack from Miami, and then Tyrese Proctor from Duke, just ahead of Efton Reed from Wake Forest. But there's 20 other guys I'd like to name. Matthew Cleveland from Miami, Chucky Hepburn from Louisville. There's just too many at this point. So, but
we have 18 teams in the league.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
There's 18 teams. We should have an East and a West division at this point.
Yeah, it kind of starts. It's feeling that way a little bit, and it's hard because it's you think the team that's going to be best in the league is probably going to have multiple guys, on first and second team, and obviously at the end of the year, once we get to third team and honorable mention, that'll give us a little bit more, a few more roster slots, but it's going to be really tough, especially because it feels like a few of these positions are sort of locked in place already.
All right,
guys like Salas and Davis and Flagg.
To me, Wake Forest has 3 bona fide players. I would have picked them. If I were an AP poll voter, that's the only other ACC team I would have considered for the top 25 because I know how good Salas is going to be. I know the impact that Reed can have on the team, and I know that Cam Hildreth is an excellent player. Brian Geisinger, before I let you go, in some ways it's a little bit of a surprise to me to hear Tyrese Proctor. Last year, I thought he was going to be potentially the ACC's player of the year. It obviously did not work out. So what that you have either seen through video or are you expecting to change within Proctor's game? Because I think we all agree that when you watch him at his best, he is one of those players. He is an elite defender, a distributor, a shooter, a scorer, a driver. He's long. He has every element you would want in a point guard. But it hasn't really been put together except for a game here, a game there. So what are you expecting or have seen from him that leads you to believe that he can be one of those?
Yeah, I mean, first off, he had the ankle injury last year, suffered at Georgia Tech. And, I think he missed some games, and then even when he first came back, he wasn't quite the same. I think we talked about this a little bit last season. I think he missed having a lob threat like Derek Lively in the pick and roll game, and now with Common Malawash and Malik Brown, he's got maybe a little bit more of a pressure point on the rim when Duke gets to their screen roll stuff. But I'll be honest with you, Gold. I am maybe the captain of team. Tyrese Proctor was good last season. He actually got better statistically across the board in basically everything. Assists up, turnovers down, 3-point shooting up, 2-point shooting up. He was really, really good last season. I think he got burned a little bit by the fact that he played so well down the stretch of his freshman season. Mostly by making a lot of really tough shots. Think about that Tennessee game. And then Jonathan Givony from ESPN mocks him at number 7 in the draft last summer. And it caused everyone to think oh my God, is Tyrese Proctor a lottery pick? The answer to that is no. But is he an awesome basketball player? Definitively yes. So I think even if you get just sort of moderate, growth across the board again, it's gonna end up being an awesome season. Who knows? Maybe he makes an outlier jump as a shooter, and then that makes everything else way easier. But I'm still I don't know if I would say I'm bullish on Proctor, but just I've maintained a solid and steady evaluation of him go all through last season.
Brian Geisinger, 24/7 Sports, Buzzbeat Podcast, and if you want to get right to it, Split the Action on Substack. The smartest basketball mind I know. Brian Geisinger, my man, I will talk to you very soon. Basketball season is just, go out and see Lincoln and Duke tomorrow. Go shout out Julius Hodge, and I'll talk to you a lot during the season.
Sounds good. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. You guys take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Brian Geisinger at @BGeis_Bird